Hello ladies and gentlemen, in this video we are going to see about ecosystem services. Okay, so the ecosystem provide us various services. So the major four services were provisional services, cultural services, supporting services and then regulating services. These services that was provided by the ecosystem was required for a good living of a human being, not only the human beings but also the good condition, good living for a entire living things. So let's see what are all the ecosystem services are. First, we are going to see about a provisioning services. Provisioning is nothing but a products that was provided by the ecosystem. First one is a food. The ecosystem provides us a food for heating. Okay, so which provides us nutrients, other proteins, etc. Next, it provides us a medicine for curing diseases. Next, water is provided by the ecosystem and we are using the water for various purposes from our domestic purpose to industrial purposes. Then it provides us a fibers, different types of fibers that we are making. From the fiber we are making some cloths and other textiles, other products, etc. Okay, not only these, there are a lot of products that was provided by the ecosystem. Next one is the cultural services that was provided by the ecosystem. Spiritual development, a person can able to develop its spirituality by combining with the ecosystem. Okay, for peacefulness, to attain a peace. Okay, to attain a peace we are going to a very natural place and do some exercises, yogas, to attain a spirituality. So ecosystem provides us a spiritual development. Next, gardening. We are doing gardening works in our homes. We are do what are all we are doing in gardens, like we are growing flowers, vegetables, and some other fruits, etc. So gardening services provided by the ecosystem. Next one is educational services for the purpose of education, for the purpose of getting a knowledge. Take for example, schools and colleges are arranging for educational trips and they are going for a sightseeing to understand how the nature works, ecosystem works. So these are all the educational purposes. Next, recreational purposes. Recreational purpose is for enjoyment. Okay, we are going a vacation. In vacation, we are going for a trip. We are going for a tour, and we are seeing different places for, and we are enjoying sightseeing. We are enjoying falls. So, like that, various recreational services was provided by the ecosystem. Next one is the regulating services. How the ecosystem regulates itself. How the ecosystem regulates the entire process in the nature. That is what is the regulating services. Climate regulation. Okay. What is the meaning of a climate regulation? Is that ecosystem maintains the climate. Okay. Ecosystem absorbs the heat. If there is too much of a heat in the environment, it releases the chillness, it absorbs the coldness that was in the environment. So this was a climatic regulation that was provided by the ecosystem. It regulates the climate by itself. It absorbs the too much of a coldness, it absorbs the too much of a heat and maintains the proper condition. Okay. Next, pollination. Pollination by means of a uh, pollination by means of insects. Okay, insects do a pollination and thereby there is a grow in the number of species by means of a pollination. Grow in the number of trees, number of other natural, like other natural trees, other natural, some small plants, rare plants were growing by means of a, there is a growth in the number by means of a pollination. Next, flood prevention. Okay, flood prevention was done by, if there is a too much of a rain, there will be a flood. So such a flood was prevented by means of a trees, by means of a land. Tree roots prevents the flood by absorbing the water. So if there is a fast flowing water, it was prevented by a trees. It was prevented by plants, and plants and trees absorb such a water. So flood prevention service was provided by the ecosystem. Next one is a pest control. Pest control. Pest. If there is a pest, it was eaten by some other species. Take for example, a pest like rat. A rat was eaten by a snake. Okay, so a rat was controlled. The population of the rat was controlled. Likewise, there is a various pest which was eaten by the another species, like what we have seen in the food chain and the food web. Okay, so if the pest control was done, we can be able to prevent the crop loss. Okay, crops can be safeguarded. Next one is the seed dispersal. How the seed was dispersed from one place to another place by means of birds. Okay, birds eating fruits, and it disperse the seed into another area by means of excreta wastes. Okay, excreta wastes. It disperse the seed into the another area. Next, supporting services. Supporting services is nothing but it was useful for the others to maintain other ecosystem services. Supporting services was required. Okay. First one is the biodiversity. Okay, biodiversity is nothing but a presence of the different types of species. Okay, if the ecosystem is diverse, it can able to sustain for long. If there is a different kinds of a species in some places, it can able to sustain a life of a person, life of animals that belongs to that ecosystem for a long period. So for a sustainability, for a greater sustainability, and for a good maintaining of ecosystem, biodiversity was required. So ecosystem must need to maintain a proper biodiversity. Then nutrition recycling. Okay, nutrients. Okay, nutrients. Recycling of essential nutrients. Okay, nutrients was required by a plants, by a human beings. Such nutrients was recycled by the ecosystem. So the nutrients was flow from one farm to another farm by means of ecosystem services. Next one is primary productivity. So primary productivity was done by the plants. Okay, without the primary productivity, we people cannot be able to get a food. Plants do a primary productivity by means of a photosynthesis. So without the primary productivity, there will be no food for a world. Okay, so this primary productivity was done by the plants to support other species. So these are all the major services that was provided by the ecosystem. Thank you.